Well, hey there. Good morning, Brickheads. Happy Wednesday to you. I hope you're having a great Wednesday. Hope you're having a great week. We did it. We're almost to the end of August. So you know what that means? It means it's time for another Wild Card Wednesday. So I am excited to talk about this topic today. But first, before I get into it, as always, I want to say thank you. No matter how you get your podcast, if you're listening to this episode on your favorite podcast platform, I just really appreciate it. Lots of listeners lately from the great country of Sweden. I mean, isn't that just cool when you think to yourself someone half a world away is listening in? So huge shout out today to Sweden. And here in the States, Illinois coming on strong, showing Ohio and California and those other big listening states. There are a lot of listeners up there in the Illinois area. So greatly appreciate you. Or maybe you're a visual person and you like checking this out on the YouTube page. No matter how you're getting this episode, I just really appreciate it. But with that, I just want to get into it. Today's topic, this Wild Card Wednesday. A few weeks back, I had a regular listener, suggest that, they were like, hey, I was thinking about starting my own Lego podcast or starting my own Lego YouTube channel, like just getting into this world. And, what does that take? And do you have any suggestions? And hey, maybe that could make for a great podcast episode. And so, Renee, here you go. I'm going to tell you basically my journey. I'm going to tell you everything I've learned here in the last 7 years of posting stuff on both YouTube and podcasts. And here's how I'm going to break it down for you. So I got it broken down into 4 main sections, okay? I'm going to just basically tell you what my journey is from start to where we are now. Don't worry, it'll be the abridged version. And then after that, I'm going to talk to you about basically what does it take? Like the meat of this episode is what does it take to actually do what I'm doing for you? And then finally, it'll be the last 2 parts will be what I've learned and the why behind it. Like, why am I spending my part of my life, this hobby, doing this thing? And if basically at the very end, if I knew everything I knew now, would I do it again? And would I suggest to you if you're interested in doing this? So that's how I'm going to break down this episode. So here we go. We're going to get into it. So you want to be a YouTuber or you want to be a podcaster? Well, here you go. Here's how it works. And let me first put the disclaimer. Results may vary, right? I mean, my hope for you is if you do this, that you are successful. And I always hope that you are more successful than me because that would just make me excited for you. But it might be better. It might be worse. Who knows? All I know is it definitely will be different. So results definitely will vary because this is a wild ride if you decide to get into it. But hey, here you go. My Lego journey, if you will, because I've been collecting Lego for a long time. And I think I've always watched YouTube. And I watched a lot of those videos on the speed build videos. I just liked them. The time lapse, you'd see some big, huge set like a Millennium Falcon or, the Imperial Shuttle, stuff like that. And they were speed building it and it just looked all cool. And I was like, I think I could do that. I kind of want to try. I think I was a little bored. The year is 2018 and the Lego Harry Potter Hogwarts castle had just come out. We're talking like the big 6,000 plus piece behemoth. And I was like, okay, if there is a set to film me building it, this has got to be it, right? So I went out and bought a cheap, like super imitation knockoff GoPro. We're talking something that cost like $30, right? And that's all I had. I didn't have any sound equipment. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have any lighting. Didn't know quite then how I was even going to edit it. But I had this little camera and I had a tripod and I was like, all right, I'm going to do this. And I did. I filmed it. Took a long time to film and I kept thinking to myself like, I'm building, could they see my hands or am I in frame? And I know there are multiple times where, because I didn't even know on the editing software, how to change where we are in the frame, like what zoom was or how to move the frame over to center the shot. Like I didn't know any of that. I was just like, I've got to position this camera just right, because if I don't position it just right, I won't be in the frame. The whole thing will be ruined. Like that's where I was. And I posted that video way back in November of 2018. And so that was almost 7 years ago. And honestly, I didn't start with any plan. And in fact, it was really a very, very slow burn. Like I was putting videos out there, honestly, because I thought it was fun. I really was making them for me. And I thought, no matter what happens with the YouTube channel, I have this almost like making my own home video. If I want to go back and watch it later, that I built this castle or my kids helped me build a set, well, then I can, it's documented, right? It's there forever. And that idea was an allure to me. And so that's what I did for like 3 years. I really only put out, I don't know, I haven't gone back and looked, but maybe 8 to 10 videos. Well, like, yeah, maybe a little bit more, maybe 15 in like a 3-year period of just learning what I was doing. And at the time, part of that was the editing software too. And just, I had access to Adobe. And so I was like, I'm going to learn this software. And it started going up from there. And then things really ramped up in 2021. And that year, 2021, all that post-COVID junk, we ended up selling our home. We had lived there for a long time, and we moved into this house, this place where I'm at right now. And this place was a wreck. It was a fixer-upper for sure, right? And that's why I bought it. It had so much potential. Is that what they say? Had good bones, right? And besides Lego, I think it's important for you to know this, I've also had a woodworking business now for 16, 17 years as well. And so I had a lot of knowledge in how to build and how to do construction. And I was like, if we move into this fixer-upper, I could actually be the guy who makes those woodworking videos and on like the journey of start to finish on building a home, right? I was watching a lot of Red Poppy Ranch at the time on YouTube. If you want to check it out, it's about this really cool family out in Idaho, basically homesteaders, if you will, and they built that off grid and, did it from ground up. And I was like, gosh, that's just so cool, right? And they did that whole like from start to finish. And I just thought that was neat. And so I told my wife, I was like, we moved into this house, I am going to fix it up and I'm going to record the whole darn thing and put it on YouTube. And I did. And I put the Lego channel on hold, essentially. The Lego channel was very much just, it was the play channel, right? It was my main channel that I used it to watch YouTube, and I put up the occasional videos, but I never ever took it seriously. The woodworking channel I did because it was part of my business. It was part of what I was doing, and I really hit it hard, and that is where I would say I cut my teeth, right? So now you move forward 3 years. The woodworking channel is successful. It's almost, I think it's around 2,000 subscribers. It does pretty well. I haven't done as much on it as I should. My bad. But here's what then happened is we're moving into 2024 and you got to know something about me. I'm a little ADHD, right? Like I need something. I need a thing. I got to keep going. And I had been doing a school podcast because I'm also an educator, and we had been doing this school podcast for a couple of years. And I was like, the podcast is fun. Like it's really just enjoyable to do this. And I had 2 years of practice under my belt of how to do the podcast and everything. So it was another thing I had already gotten used to. And I was like, well, why not do a Lego podcast? I know a lot about Lego. I've been doing Lego for a large portion of my life. Hey, I should do a podcast. And I just said, I just went into it full bore. And that's kind of like what has happened each step of the way is I haven't really thought honestly about the end product or the long-term plan. I just thought, this sounds fun. This sounds cool. And so I did it. And started the podcast here back in September of last year. I recorded a couple episodes. I enjoyed it. I was like, oh, I think this could have something here. And I was like, well, you know what? If I'm already going to be talking about Lego, honestly, why don't I turn this into a video podcast? And that way I can post on multiple podcast platforms, but then also post it on the Lego YouTube page. Like, it was sitting there. Like, it was still a play channel. Honestly, as of up to 18 months ago, I was not taking it seriously. And so I did. And I fell in love with this platform, with being able to talk about different ideas about Lego, giving my opinions, giving my set reviews, things that I could do that I felt maybe I could contribute to this amazing community. And honestly, in the last 6 months, I was consistent, and it's gotten much bigger. And, here in August, I recently hit 1,000 subscribers, which in the grand scheme, 1,000's not much, but you got to understand, last year, the channel was at 200 subscribers. And so for the first 6 years, I worked up to 200 subscribers. And then I really put some time and effort into it, and it went up. I've gotten about 800 subscribers in about a year. So that's not too bad. Things have been going pretty well. And that's my journey with it, right? And so here we are, fast forward to today. I manage 2 YouTube channels. I manage 1 podcast on multiple podcast platforms. I have a woodworking business, and I do multiple social media with the woodworking aspect. So I have my hand in many honeypots. Okay, so that is my journey. Kind of a weird one, but here we are. So again, very much a slow burn. This wasn't I'm going to just do this and this is going to be instantaneous success. And so if you want to do it, again, that's why I say results may vary. But if you get into it, the real question and the meat of this episode is, what does it take? Like, what does it take to do all those things I just talked to you about? And the answer is simple. It takes time and it takes money. Like, you have to spend money to make money, and it's going to take a lot of your time. So let's talk about time first, because that's usually the biggest thing, really. Time is bigger than money in this game. I firmly believe that. Your evenings, your weekends, those type of things, you're going to be thinking about this. Like, if you wanted to do a Lego podcast and you want to do what I do, where I do released episodes every Monday and every Wednesday. So I have a regular rotation, your regularly scheduled episode. That's me. But to have a regularly scheduled episode 2 a week, I am constantly thinking about what is the next episode going to be? What is the next big idea? Whether it's a Wild Card Wednesday, what set do I think would be interesting? Is it not only just an interesting set, like are viewers going to like it, or is there a reason I'm reviewing it? Like, is there new Lego coming out? Like, we get new Transformers Soundwave, right? So I did a set review of Optimus Prime because they kind of work together. Things like that. I'm always thinking about what the next thing needs to be. And I'm also thinking, I need to make a script for that. I need to work on an outline, because I don't just have all this in my head. I have a computer right here that always gives me a bullet point outline of all the things I want to remind myself to tell you to give you a better quality episode, right? No one likes radio silence. So there's that. Scripts take time. Ideas take time. And then I upped my game. So we're talking beginning of 2025, I upped what the video podcast was, because when I was doing the first video podcast, it was literally just this, me talking to you with the camera. But then it's like set reviews, rumors, leaked images. I was like, I'm missing a golden opportunity if I don't put these up with my podcast. Well, that's just additional editing, and editing takes time. It takes a lot of time. And then there's just post-production stuff, down to you're downloading stuff all the time. When I'm done with this episode, I literally am going to my office, downloading the episode, checking it out, make sure the file works right. Once I get through the editing process, you're taking those finished copies, you're uploading things to YouTube, you're uploading things to the podcast platform, things like that. So all of that just takes time, So that's a big thing. You've got to be willing to commit to that. The other one thing before I get into the money and the equipment and what I specifically use, I think it's important to note is I do think you need to have a personality for it too. I would like to think that I'm a natural at this, right? But truth is, I have been on the camera now for hundreds of hours. It feels, I wouldn't say it ever feels totally normal, but it feels more normal to me to talk to a camera now. And talking to a camera, it's not the easiest thing in the world. Once you push play, you change your cadences in your voice, your rhythms, how you speak. All of those things work into it. And if you have a, monotone personality, well, your viewers are going to lose interest because these episodes, like this episode today, is going to be 30 minutes. That's usually what I shoot for, around a 30-minute episode, right? I've got to be able to entertain you and give you enough information that you're not going to click away. That's hard to do, and especially hard to do if you're just today in Lego, we are going to talk about the next latest set. And voice inflection, all of those things matter. Where you put the emphasis on the syllables, all of that is important. And you're thinking about that on the fly, like I am right now, while the camera is rolling. Now, I will say this. If you're doing regular YouTube videos, that's the beauty of editing. You can do 100 takes. And you can edit out all the ums, all the is, and all the rights, because I notice in videos I say right a lot. Sorry. Right? So you can edit all of that out. But in like this podcast platform that I'm doing with you, it's a one take. So if I screw it up, if I bonk the table, if I mess up, you get to see it because I could choose to re-record an entire podcast, and sometimes I do start over. If I'm like 5 minutes in and I don't like how I'm doing, I'll stop it and I'll start over. But for the most part, what you see is a first take, okay, versus a very heavily edited YouTube video. And when I do like review and speed build videos, that is much more heavily edited, what I would say much more polished and much more filtered. What you get here is unfiltered, which honestly, it makes sense for a podcast because part of the fun of a podcast is you get that, it's not just that conversation-y feel, but just that you're having that, that down-to-earth, unfiltered moment that makes the podcast feel real. So personality, it is important. Okay, but moving on to money and equipment. Steve, what do you film with? Well, because I am not a big YouTuber and I don't have sponsors and I don't have partnerships with anybody, I'm filming you right now with my cell phone. We live in a day and age where in 2018, the cell phone cameras, they just weren't good enough to give you high quality video footage. But here in 2025, I just use my Android S23. Yes, Android over iPhones. Put it in the comments if you're an Android lover. I'd love to hear it. If you're an iPhone user, you can still listen, I guess. But my point is, the cameras on these phones are good enough now where you can get high quality HD footage and have a good finished product. So I actually film everything with my phone. Sound. Can I tell you that obviously people are looking at your YouTube videos first, right? They want to see quality. They want it to look nice. But honestly, guys, sound may be just as important, if not more important, to your video because nothing turns a person off faster than just poor sound quality. And that's very apparent if you tune in to early episodes especially early YouTube videos that I was putting out on the woodworking channel that I have. It's called the Imagination Wood Shop. So I have the Imagination Wood Shop and the Imagination Brick Shop. You see what I did there? The lapel mics, things like that I bought, it levels everything, and it gives you a consistent sound. This podcast equipment, I have it set up and calibrated to where I think it makes my voice sound as good as my voice is going to sound. And that's the other thing is you sound terrible to yourself usually if you're listening back. Like you're like, oh my God, that's the sound of my voice. Again, I have done this enough where I know how I sound in my head, but now I know how I sound in real life, and I have gotten over that, and that is a big hurdle for a lot of people to climb. But invest in sound equipment. And what I mean is, even if it comes down to simple wireless Bluetooth lapel mics. I have 3 different sets. My third one that I went through, it's not too expensive, but the third set is what I believed has sounded best, and so now I'm using that until that dies, and then I'll move on to something else. But yes, sound is important. Lighting and setups. For setups, I have just a normal tripod. I do most of my videos in a stationary position because, guys, hey, it's just me. No one's filming this for me. No one's doing anything for me. This is a Lone Ranger project right here. And so tripods, that's really important. The lighting scheme is super important. I do have backlighting like what you'd see in a photography studio, those big, the umbrellas that unfold. I have a couple of those to give me a little more lighting. It kind of evens things out. And then having like backlighting, stuff like that. That is an important thing because you don't want people to be washed out in videos. You don't want it to be too dark in videos. So even lighting is important, but so that's more purchases, right? Those can all be purchased pretty cheaply. The more expensive stuff is editing software. So to edit videos, I use Adobe Premiere Pro. It's essentially the gold standard, right? I actually am lucky where as an educator, I get to use it through my educator path, if you will. So I am not paying a monthly subscription for that. So that saves me a lot of money because Adobe is not cheap. But it is a great program. It is a bit of a learning curve, and it's something that took me years. Again, self-taught. No one taught me Adobe. And there is so much more on that program that to this day I need to learn. Color grading, sound, things like that in there that I've tried to learn, but I just haven't gotten there. But again, hey, here's the good news. There are a lot of YouTube videos out there to help you with Adobe specifically and how to do edit. If you're just like doing an edit, ripple, delete of stuff, like what does that mean? Well, Adobe's got some 2-minute video with some dude in, Wyoming that shows you this thing and blam, now you know how to do this skill. So I do use Adobe for that, but if you don't have a way to get it for free, I think it's like $28 a month. That's pretty expensive. For sound, for music, because that's another thing you have to think about. All these people want to post really popular songs, but if you decide to put a Taylor Swift song on one of your videos, you now cannot monetize that video. It is got a little strike right there, and that money then goes to the person who's putting out that song. Okay, so you can't use copyrighted music. The workaround on this is for music, I use Epidemic Sound. Now, I only use Epidemic Sound for my woodworking channel. So they charge you per channel, and so I haven't wanted to pay to have both channels covered. But it's basically, it gives you an entire library of really good music, and that's where all the music comes from. And honestly, when you watch a lot of YouTube videos, it's funny. Once you start using something like Epidemic Sound a lot, you'll watch a video in someone else's channel. You're like, well, they're an Epidemic Sound user because that's a song from there. I know that one. That's a Cody Francis song. So things like that. I will say this, though. If you do not want to pay for a music download subscription, YouTube Library has a lot of great free music. The song that plays at the start and end of all of my podcast episodes, that is from the YouTube library. That's it's a DJ, is NFX is who it is. And I just like his music in general. And I was like super happy that it was available for me on the YouTube. And that's all copyright free music. Now you'll notice in the description, I do put music credit, YouTube music library in all of my videos. So there are other places, Ben Sound, other things like that where you can do it, but sound can be complicated. So you just really have to pay attention to what is copyright-free music and what is copyrighted music, because that is the quickest way. YouTube is really good at saying, okay, sorry, we're going to let you post your video, but you're never going to make money off it because it's a copyrighted video now. And then finally, a couple other things, resources that I've used. I have used vidIQ to help me with, titles, making catchier titles. Do I have the right descriptors in my YouTube page in there? Like when you post a video, there are keywords. Things like vidIQ help me determine, like, are these good keywords? Is this a good title? Is this a good thumbnail? And I only did that for a couple times. Like I did that like 1 month just to see and rank my videos, just to kind of figure out like how catchy was it. Now that I've gotten better at it, I don't use it anymore. There's a free part of it that you can give access to, so you get some limited capabilities, but I actually don't pay for that. And then Canva. Canva is another thing where, listen, you may have the world's greatest YouTube page, but people aren't going to watch your videos if your thumbnails are junk. Thumbnails make all the difference. And yes, catchy, clickbaity sometimes. You just need to know that if you do a clickbaity thumbnail post, you better be posting about what you're talking about. And so I really try to do that. I try to stay true always for what my thumbnail is. Evoke an emotion with that, making people want to click on that, but I use Canva to do that. And again, my educator's account helps me use Canva with that, but you can use some limited things. And then finally, hey guys, AI, it's here, whether we like it or not. ChatGPT, yeah, it helps me write a lot of my descriptions. So it doesn't just generate it. I actually write out a description and then I input it into ChatGPT to help me proof it, spiff it up, clean it up, and do those type of things as well. So you have to be willing to use all of your tools at your disposal to give you the best product. So when it comes, though, down just to sheer money and what I've spent, the only things that I have an actual subscription that I paid for each year are two things. One, Epidemic Sound for sound. And then two, for my podcast itself, to be able to stream on multiple podcast platforms. You could do it all manually, but I use what's called Podbean. Podbean is basically, it's a manager. It's podcast platform, but when I post a podcast on there, it's what pushes it out to Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple. It actually pushes everything out to all those different platforms. So if you're listening on Spotify right now, I post on Podbean, and Podbean ports it over to Spotify, and I link all of that up. Again, it was another thing I had to learn, but once you get going on it, it's not so bad. So I do pay a yearly subscription for Podbean and then for, like I said, the sound. All right, that's the big stuff. So what does that put me in? $250. And then there are little things. Obviously, I'm using a laptop. Oh, the podcast equipment. Gosh, I didn't even talk about that. It's a one-time expense, but it's something where you could spend $100, you could spend $400. It just kind of depends. The mic is really important. Finding something that takes the cards. You don't really need anything too fancy. You just need something that's going to give you a quality recording. The Zoom system I use, it is a little bit more money. It was a couple $100, but definitely affordable if you break it off over the year. So anyway, moving on from there, that's all the logistics. But I think it's important to note all that, because it's like, if you want to do a Lego YouTube page, if you want to do a Lego podcast, you got to know the logistics. And not a lot of people actually talk about that. So as I apologize if some of you found that a little bit boring, but if you're actually interested in that, in peering behind the curtain, it's important to know, or you might just go, I wonder where he gets that sound. People post that all the time in comments. They're like, what is that song you're playing at the beginning? Or I wonder what equipment he uses. Or I wonder, does he, whatever it is. That's what that is. That is the behind the scenes. And that also just comes from 7 years of playing around, trial and error. I've had a lot of trial and I've had a lot of error, and this is now the thing that is working for me. So that's what I'm doing. So what have I learned and why do I do it? Well, I kind of answered that a little bit, but I've learned that this is a job. Okay. If you want to do this, let's not mince any words here. Being a regular contributor on a YouTube channel or on a podcast is a job. You are thinking about it. You are spending time on it. You are spending your resources on it. And that is what a job is. And hopefully, if you do it well enough, if you do it long enough, if you grind hard enough, it will give you returns. That is not guaranteed, though, in this game. So I think it's important to go into it with a mindset of, what do you want to accomplish out of that? And, for me, it's fun. But can I tell you, though, the other thing I've learned is that having that job, there's pressure there. There is pressure, and burnout is real. If you want to know what burnout looks like, turn to my YouTube channel for the woodworking. I haven't put a lot of videos on there. Why? Because I've been struggling to get into the shop and just do projects. That's just real deal. And I've struggled to do that because I have been spending a lot of time doing this, the Lego channel, the Lego podcast, and there's only so much time in a day. And as I said, it's just me, and I've got to sleep. I have my regular job, and I still wanted to spend time with my family and, occasionally relax. So something gives usually, and right now what's giving is the YouTube channel for the woodworking page, but I plan on getting back into that pretty quick as well. So, but it is a job. Burnout is real. There is pressure, but it's got to be fun. You got to enjoy this. Like, I'm having fun right now talking to you about what this is, and it is a bit addictive. I'm not going to lie. There is not a day that has gone by in the last 4 years, pretty much, that I haven't at least just clicked on my YouTube studio real quick just to say, hey, how are the analytics today? And then I go off and I do the rest of my day. But analytics is a real thing, man. You go into YouTube studio, it's like, okay, hits, how's this doing? Is this video doing well? And then you start analyzing it like, shoot, did I mess up? Like, do I change my thumbnail? Is this topic strange? Do people like this? And then and that can be a slippery slope for sure. And what I've also learned and why I do it ultimately is because I need creative outlets. As I said, I'm a bit ADHD and I've got to always do something. Like, I kind of have a bit of a I don't stop personality. There are people that are very content to go to their job, and then when that job is done, they're done for the day. And then they go back and they do that job again. And that's not me. Like, I don't think people who aren't in this world really understand this. I know the majority of people that I work with, I don't think they truly understand it. Like, they appreciate it, they see it, they kind of get it, but I don't stop. Like, I give 110% in my regular job. At my school, I work my butt off, and it's a pressure-filled job. And you'd think when I get done at the end of the day, I want to go home and just do nothing, right? Well, when I get home, then I do this, or then I go into the garage, or then I'm working with a customer about building a woodworking project. Like, I don't stop. And then, when 10 o'clock hits, I'm like, it's time to go to bed, and we wake up when we do it again. But that's my personality. If you don't have a personality for that, if you don't have that level of drive, this is going to be hard for you. So that is what I've learned. And you've got to be willing You've got to be willing to be okay with things starting slow, and you have to be okay with failure. This might not work. And in fact, the woodworking channel and the Lego channel, honestly, for a long time, I'm like, why am I doing this? Nobody's watching. Nobody cares. And then you get this hit, like a video drops and it's good. And well, you think all your videos are good. Like I've never produced anything where I'm like, oh, this isn't amazing. Like I produced a video on a secret hidden room. Like I built one of those hidden rooms, y'all. And I was like, this is it. And it got like 135 or 200 views. Like when it came out, I was like, really? I think I did really good. Or I remodeled an entire bathroom in one day. Is that not the most YouTube worthy thing you've ever heard? And when I first posted that, I remember it got like 50 hits. And I was like, dang, I am not doing well. Why do I continue to do this? But you grind. You grind and you grind, and eventually things happen, and there are good days and there are bad days, and you've got to be able to work through all of them. So with that, then, the final point and how I end this episode is, if I knew all of that, would I do it again, and do I recommend it to you? Well, the answer is 100% yes. I love this. I'm still having fun. Believe me, if this ever stops being fun, if I hate this, I can quit this. You know, it's a job that I am doing voluntarily because I enjoy it, and hopefully there's going to be residuals that become of it, but I can walk away. It's got to be fun. And so, yes, I would do this again. Now, however, I would remind you, balance is important. You know, that's really key. So, yes, do I think you should do it? If you have all of the things that I have been talking about this whole episode, yeah, go for it. I want you to do it. Anybody who gets on, who does this own thing. In fact, I have a listener. Oh my God, Bricks Q Smith. I don't know if I said that right. I'm going to look it up because I want to give him credit because I think that's also important because community is important. He is a listener to the YouTube page. I know he's going to watch this video, and I want to make sure, you know, I'm getting a little off topic right now because now I'm doing multiple things. Here you go. Here's the single take with a podcast. But my point is, when we get into that grind and that balance, like I want to be able to give credit where credit is due. Moving off a little bit. Oh gosh, things are kind of going off the rails at the very end because I want to give it, because I'm trying to do too much. My bad. Here we go. Smith Brick Q's. Great channel. He is where I was about 3 years ago. You should go out, take a look at his stuff. I love it. And it reminds me of what I was doing. And so it's like, that's the other part of this, of what I was trying to get at, is you'll find people in this community that are doing what you do. I don't view him as competition. He is competition, right? But it's not. Like, it's not that we're fighting for viewers. I want viewers to see his stuff, just like I know he probably, or I hope he wants viewers to see my stuff. And so I want you to do this. I want you to get into this world. I just want you to be aware of all of the things. So again, if you are watching, that big shout out, Smith Bricks Q's, Bricks is BRIC capital QS. Like again, he does great thumbnails, but it very much reminds me where I was at about 3 years ago. And he has currently 75 subscribers. I would love for you to go to his page and subscribe. But those are the things where I don't view him as my competition. I view him as another person in this community that is doing the grind like I am and just trying to have some fun and get ahead and just put out a good product. You know what I mean? So yeah. And then finally, last but not least, I apologize for going off tangent a little bit there, but the last but not least is, chances are you're not going to get rich. You're not Mr. Beast. Sorry. You're not going to make a ton of money on this. My residuals right now, I'll just be honest with you, $3 to $5 a day. That's between the two channels, $3 to $5 a day, which, I mean, when you do the math right now, you're talking $1,500, $2,000 a year. That's not bad, honestly, if you think about it in that terms. But when you look at it on a daily basis and you're like, one channel, I made 79 cents on this channel today, or I made $2.18. It doesn't seem like a lot of money. It adds up over time, but I'm not getting rich. Like, hopefully it gets better and it gets more and it gets more. That's what people always hope for. But the odds of you being that YouTuber that gets that golden button of 1 million subscribers is pretty low, So you have to go into it with a mentality of, this is not a money-making platform. This is a platform you to do your best job to produce good content, and that will come, and that don't rely on it for a steady source. I have a job that makes my money. But anyway, that's really the final thing, is just be realistic, have balance, but you know that you're going to work, and you're going to work a lot. But there you go. That's what I know. I'm sorry it is a long episode today. It was so long, I almost thought about breaking this into 2 parts. And if there are things that I haven't answered for you, honestly, I'm very transparent. I have no reason to lie or embellish or, not help you be successful. So if you have a question about what it takes, both in the podcast platform area, in the YouTube area, I am not the biggest YouTuber. There are a lot bigger YouTubers than me. I'm fully aware of this, but I am more than happy to share with you any knowledge that I have if it helps you be successful. So please leave me comments down below. And again, I also know this wasn't a very Lego-centric episode, but it really revolves in something that can generate stuff for you to talk about Lego. And I think the more people that are talking about Lego, that are enjoying Lego, and enjoying just building bricks in general, man, the better world we got, right? So anyway, that is my spiel. Happy end of August. I will talk to you on Monday, because again, I'm already thinking about Monday's episode. Every Monday and Wednesday, I'm putting stuff out. So until I come back and talk to you about those news and rumors on Monday, I hope you have a great weekend, y'all. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.